There's a moment at the end of the hug where everything changes. You've probably scrolled past the clip 100 times. Blake Shelton, Kelly Clarkson. Just two friends congratulating each other at an award show. Nothing unusual.
Begged you to want me, but you didn't want to.
Except her eyes stay closed a little too long. His hand lingers where it shouldn't need to. And the internet can't stop replaying those 4 seconds trying to figure out what they just witnessed. These are two people who rebuilt themselves after their marriages exploded in public. Who sat next to each other through the worst seasons of their lives. Who understand each other in ways that don't need words.
When you love someone, they say you set them free.
But this hug, it revealed something neither of them expected anyone to notice. And what it says about heartbreak, healing, and the space between friendship and something more, that's where this story gets complicated. Let me show you what everyone's missing.
Piece by piece, he restored my faith.
4 seconds, that's literally all it takes to spark a wildfire online. But here's what most people miss entirely. And honestly, it changes everything about how you'll see that hug from now on. To understand why that embrace felt heavy, you gotta rewind. Not to last week or last season. You need to go back years, to a time when both Blake and Kelly were standing in the wreckage of broken marriages. When country music wasn't just a career but more like a confessional, when the songs they wrote weren't performances, they were survival. Blake's divorce from Miranda Lambert hit country music like an earthquake. They were the golden couple, you know? The duets, the matching awards, the kind of love story fans build entire shrines around. And then it ended. Not with some big dramatic scene, but with a statement. 2 sentences from publicists. The internet exploded with theories.
She wouldn't be gone.
The interviews where his smile didn't reach his eyes, the performances where his voice cracked in ways that definitely weren't artistic choices. He didn't just lose a wife. He lost the whole future he thought he was building. And Kelly. She understood that pain on a level most people never will. Her divorce from Brandon Blackstock wasn't just tabloid headlines, it was custody battles. Financial disputes, the kind of ugly that plays out in courtrooms while cameras flash outside. She'd built her whole identity around that family, given everything to make it work. Watched it crumble anyway.
I make the same mistakes that you did.
Both of them found their way back through music. Through the voice, through each other's company, honestly. Not romantic, not scandalous. Just present. Sitting next to someone who actually gets it. Who doesn't ask if you're okay when you're clearly falling apart? Who just shows up and sits in the silence with you? That's the context fans forget when they replay that hug 100 times looking for evidence of something that probably isn't even there.
God gave me you for the ups and downs.
Now Blake's married to Gwen Stefani, another person who crawled out of heartbreak and found something unexpected on the other side. Their story's its own kind of miracle, honestly. 2 people from completely different worlds meeting in those red chairs. Discovering that broken doesn't mean finished. Gwen knows what divorce does to you. Her split from Gavin Rossdale was brutal, public. Every single detail dissected by tabloids for months. She wrote entire albums about that pain.
I don't know why I cry, but I think it's 'cause I remember for the first time.
And Blake was there. Listening. Understanding. Not trying to fix her. Just being present in the wreckage. They didn't plan to fall in love, it just kinda happened. The way real things sometimes do when you stop forcing them. So when you see Blake hug Kelly at that award show, you're not watching 2 colleagues share some professional moment. You're watching 2 people who walked through fire together. Not romantic fire. Emotional fire. The kind that burns away everything fake and leaves only what's real underneath. That's why the hug lasted 4 seconds instead of 2. That's why her eyes closed without thinking. That's why his hand didn't rush to pull away like it would with a stranger. But the internet doesn't see history. It sees frames, screenshots. Slow motion edits with dramatic piano layered underneath. And suddenly, a moment of genuine human connection becomes evidence of something it probably isn't. Here's what nobody's talking about, though. And I'll get to it in just a minute. But first you need to understand something about body language that changes how you interpret everything you see celebrities do on camera. When psychologists study hugs, they measure specific things. Duration, pressure, eye contact before and after the embrace, and there's one signal that almost always indicates deep emotional trust. Closing your eyes during the hug. It's involuntary. You can't fake it convincingly even if you tried. When you close your eyes in a hug, your brain's telling your body that this person is safe. That for this one moment you don't need to watch for threats or cameras or anything else. Kelly's eyes closed. Not for some dramatic performance, just a soft blink that lasted a little longer than normal. And that tiny detail is what fans keep replaying obsessively, because it didn't look practiced. It looked unguarded, real. And real is rare in Hollywood, rare enough that when people think they see it, they just can't look away. The clip got shared millions of times within hours. People zoomed in, drew circles around hand placements, compared it frame by frame to other hugs Blake gave that same night. With other colleagues, the embrace lasted maybe 2 seconds. Quick, professional, forgettable. This one? And in internet time, 4 seconds is basically a lifetime. Blake Shelton's never been good at hiding his emotions on camera. That's what people love about him, honestly. The big laugh. The dramatic reactions on the voice when someone nails a note. The way he wears his heart on his sleeve like it's armor instead of weakness. But that openness comes from somewhere painful. After his divorce from Miranda, Blake did something most country stars avoid. He talked about it, not in polished interview soundbites, in actual songs. Raw ones, the kind that make you uncomfortable because they feel too personal to be hearing.
Remember what we came here to forget.
He wrote about drinking too much, about trying to numb the emptiness, about showing up to places hoping the noise would drown out the silence in his head, and fans listened. Not because they wanted gossip, because they recognized themselves in those lyrics. That's the thing about country music that outsiders don't always get. It's confessional by nature. You don't hide your mess. You turn it into 3 minutes and a chorus. You let millions of strangers inside your worst moments, and somehow that makes the weight easier to carry? Kelly Clarkson understood this instinctively, even though she came from pop music originally. When her marriage fell apart, she didn't retreat into silence. She went into the studio and bled onto the microphone. The songs she released after her divorce weren't subtle. They were furious, grieving, confused. The kind of music you write at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep and the empty side of the bed feels like an accusation. But here's where it gets complicated. And most people miss this entirely. Both Blake and Kelly rebuilt themselves in public. Not behind closed doors where healing's supposed to happen. In front of cameras. On stages. In those spinning red chairs where millions watch their every reaction. They didn't have the luxury of falling apart privately. So they learned to hold it together on the surface while crumbling underneath. They got really good at the performance of being okay. The smile that switches on when the lights hit, the laugh that comes a little too quick. And they both recognize that mask in each other. That's the bond people are sensing in that viral clip. Not romance. Recognition. The kind of silent understanding between two people who've both pretended to be fine when they absolutely were not. She fits into this story in ways that matter more than people realize. When Gwen joined The Voice, she was still technically married, but anyone paying attention could see something was wrong. The spark that used to define her performances looked dimmer. Her smile seemed tired in interviews. She was going through the motions without the joy. Then the divorce happened. Publicly. Painfully. Every detail splashed across magazine covers for months.
I'm doing my best to be sensible.
He'd been there himself. Knew exactly what it felt like to have your worst moments become entertainment for strangers. And something shifted between them. Not immediately romantic. That came later. First, it was just understanding. Two broken people recognizing the same cracks in each other that everyone else seemed to miss. But here's what changes everything about that viral hug with Kelly, Gwen, and Blake are married now. Happy by all accounts, building a life on that Oklahoma ranch far from Hollywood noise. Their relationship isn't threatened by a 4-second hug between colleagues at an award show. So why does the clip feel so charged to viewers? Because you're projecting. We all are, honestly. When you watch Kelly's eyes close and Blake's hand linger, you're not really seeing them. You're seeing every moment in your own life when you held on to someone a little too long. Every goodbye that hurt more than it should. Every hug that meant something you couldn't say out loud.
This might come out a little crazy, a little sideways, yeah, maybe.
The internet loves ambiguity because ambiguity lets you write the story yourself. You become the author of their relationship. You decide what that hug meant based on your own experiences with longing and loss. But real people live inside those frames you keep replaying. Kelly's navigating co-parenting with someone she used to build her whole life around. Blake's building a new future while still carrying scars from old ones. Gwen's finally in a place where love doesn't feel like a battlefield anymore. They're not characters. In some drama you get to write, they're humans doing their best in situations most people never face. And yet, that hug still feels different when you watch it. There's something there that professional courtesy doesn't explain. A warmth that goes beyond colleague territory. A familiarity that suggests history deeper than what happens on camera.
Here I am, once again. I'm torn into pieces.
One side says you're reading way too much into nothing. The other side says body language never lies. Both sides keep watching, keep replaying. Keep looking for evidence to support what they already believe. But neither side's asking the real question, the one that actually matters here. And it's got nothing to do with whether Blake and Kelly have some secret connection. It's about why we can't stop watching in the first place. What that says about us. About what we're hungry for in a world where everything feels curated and filtered and fake. We live in an age where authenticity is the most valuable currency, and also the rarest. Every photo's filtered, every caption's calculated. Every public appearance is managed by teams of people whose entire job is making sure nothing real slips through. So when something real does slip through, it hits different. That's what happened with the Blake and Kelly hug. For 4 seconds, the mask dropped. Or at least that's what millions of viewers believe they witnessed. And believing is powerful even when you're wrong. Think about how you watch celebrities now versus 10 years ago. You don't just observe them anymore. You analyze them. You study their body language like detectives searching for clues. You freeze frames and draw conclusions from micro-expressions that last a fraction of a second.
The man I lived.
The clip gets replayed not because something scandalous happened. It gets replayed because we're starving for something that feels unscripted. And that hug felt unscripted in a way that most award show moments never do. But here's where it gets really interesting. Kelly and Blake have both talked openly about what The Voice meant to them during their hardest seasons. For Blake, those spinning chairs became a refuge during his divorce years, a place where he could show up and focus on other people's dreams instead of his own wreckage. For Kelly, it was similar. After her split from Brandon, she threw herself into work with an intensity that worried some people close to her. The Voice, her talk show recording sessions that stretched into early morning hours. Staying busy was survival. Stopping meant feeling.
Spread my wings and I'll learn how to fly.
And they sat next to each other through all of it, not necessarily talking about the pain. Just being present in the same space, sharing looks when a contestant's story hit too close to home. Laughing at jokes that weren't really that funny because laughing felt better than the alternative. That kind of proximity during crisis creates bonds that don't translate easily on camera. You can't explain years of silent support in a single frame, but you can feel it somehow when you watch them interact. The viral clip captures something viewers sense but can't articulate. A history that exists between the moments we actually see. Years of shared experience compressed into one 4-second embrace. Now compare that hug to the others Blake gave that night. This is what fans keep pointing out. And they're not wrong to notice. With other colleagues, Blake's hugs follow a predictable pattern. Quick approach. Brief squeeze, immediate release. Maybe a shoulder pat, the kind of embrace that says congratulations without saying anything more. With Kelly, the approach was slower. The hold was steadier. The release took its time, like neither of them was in a rush to get back to performing.
Why you have to go and make me like you?
Some fans argue this proves something romantic. Others say it proves exactly the opposite. That you hug people you're comfortable with differently than people you're secretly hiding feelings for. Real intimacy looks relaxed, forbidden attraction looks nervous. The debate rages on because both interpretations have evidence supporting them. But here's what almost nobody considers. What if the hug wasn't about Blake and Kelly at all? What if it was about everything happening around them? The chaos of award shows, the pressure of cameras everywhere, the exhaustion of being on all the time for years on end. Sometimes you hug someone not because of what they mean to you romantically, but because they represent steadiness in a world that won't stop spinning. Gwen Stefani probably understands this better than anyone watching from home. She knows what it's like to need grounding during public chaos. She's been there herself. That hug she gave Blake after her first Voice performance post-divorce? It lasted longer than 4 seconds. Nobody made viral clips questioning her intentions. Context matters, but context gets lost when moments become content. So your brain started looking for evidence that it was too long. You watched differently than you would have without that framing. You analyzed instead of simply observed. That's not your fault. It's just how human psychology works. We find what we're looking for because we filter out everything that contradicts our expectations. Blake and Kelly could release a joint statement tomorrow explaining that they're just friends who share history and genuine affection. It wouldn't matter. The clip would still circulate. The debates would still continue. The comment sections would still fill with people convinced they see something real. Because the hug represents something bigger than two people now. It represents our collective hunger for authenticity in a world drowning in performance, our desperate need to believe that somewhere behind all the polish and publicity, real human connection still exists. When Kelly closed her eyes, we wanted it to mean something profound. When Blake's hand lingered, we wanted it to confirm what we already felt in our gut.
All the wasted days, all the wasted nights.
The truth's probably simpler and most of you than any theory suggests. Two people who've weathered storms together shared a moment of genuine warmth on a stage designed to make everything feel fake. That's it. That's the whole story. But simple truths don't trend. Complicated theories do. So here we are replaying the same 4 seconds for the 100th time, hoping to finally understand something that maybe isn't meant to be understood. Just felt. You keep coming back to that clip because somewhere deep down you recognize yourself in it. Not in Blake, not in Kelly, but in the space between them? The place where words aren't enough so bodies speak instead. Every person watching has held onto someone a second longer than necessary, has closed their eyes and wished time would freeze just a little bit longer, has felt the weight of goodbye pressing against their chest during what should have been a simple hug. That's the real reason the clip goes viral over and over again. It's a mirror, and what you see reflected isn't their story. It's yours.
You heard that I was starting over with some.
Blake Shelton and Kelly Clarkson both know what it costs to rebuild yourself after everything falls apart. They've written the songs, done the interviews, showed up to work when staying in bed felt easier, and somewhere along the way they found comfort in each other's presence. Not the complicated kind the internet wants to create. The simple kind. The kind where you don't need to explain your damage because the other person carries similar scars. Gwen knows this too. She's walked the same road from different starting points. Her marriage to Blake isn't threatened by his friendship with Kelly any more than his past erases their present. These are adults navigating complex emotional landscapes while cameras capture every moment. And sometimes a hug is just a hug between two people who genuinely care about each other's well-being. But you'll keep watching anyway. Keep analyzing, keep debating in comment sections whether her hand stayed too long or his expression meant something more. And honestly, that's okay. Because the conversation was never really about them. It's about what we're all searching for in a world that feels increasingly disconnected. Evidence that real connection still exists somewhere, that vulnerability doesn't always end in betrayal, that people can go through hell and come out holding space for each other with grace. The clip shows you 4 seconds of that possibility. 4 seconds where two people forgot to perform. Where the cameras became background noise instead of the main event. Where time stretched because neither person was checking a clock.
If you got something to sell, you're wasting your time.
Maybe it meant nothing, but the fact that you can't stop trying to figure out which one says more about your hunger than their reality. So watch it again if you need to. Slow it down. Freeze that frame where her eyes close. Study the way his hand rests steady against her back. Look for meaning in micro-expressions in body language. Just remember that the people in that hug are real, with real lives and real relationships that don't need your theories to validate them. And maybe, just maybe, the most beautiful part of this whole viral moment isn't what it reveals about Blake and Kelly. It's what it reveals about all of us. That underneath the cynicism and the social media performance, we're all still hoping to witness something genuine. Still searching for proof that authentic connection survives in spaces designed to destroy it. That 4-second hug gave millions of people permission to feel something real, even if what they felt had nothing to do with the actual people embracing. So the question isn't whether Kelly held on too long. The question is, why does it matter so much to you if she did? What are you really searching for every time you hit replay? Because I guarantee it's not about them. It's about that moment in your own life when you didn't want to let go either. When time stretched and the rest of the world disappeared and all that existed was the person in your arms and the feeling you were trying to memorize before it ended. That's what you see in the clip. That's why you can't look away. Not scandal, not secrets. Just the ghost of your own tender moments reflected back at you in someone else's embrace. And that ghost will keep haunting the internet for as long as people need reminding that real connection, messy, complicated, beautiful, and brief, still exists somewhere underneath all the performance. Drop a comment and tell me what you really saw in that hug. And if this hit different, you know what to do.